Hi, good morning.
Good morning, how are you? Nice to see you, all of you.
Good morning.
So let the party begin.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine. Thank you. You?
Fine, thank you. Hopefully we will have a nice and smooth transition.
Yeah.
So let's start, okay?
Okay.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to be here with you today. No doubt you are the game changers working for a better, cleaner and healthier future. My name is Yasemin Somuncu. As an architect, I have had the
Yasemin, I don't earbud or something. Can you hear me? Shall I say something?
Can you unmute, please? Can you unmute? Stefanos, can you unmute also? Yeah, thank you. As an architect, I have had the privilege to collaborate with many experts in the field of energy efficiency since the last 10 years. It has been a great journey of multidimensional experience, exchange of knowledge, sharing of data, while enjoying cultural richness of different countries. Today, I have three distinguished guests from the continent, which has just been announced to be the candidate for first climate-neutral continent in 2050, Europe. Europe's 2030 emission targets have been risen from 40% to up 55% cut down to compare to 1990 emissions. This is an ambitious target for sure. Yet, we will find out today if it's achievable or not. Dear guests, at this first international session on Zero Bill 20, we will be analyzing the 2050 energy efficiency roadmaps of France, Kosovo, and Greece with my distinguished speakers, Dr. Hicham Lahmidi, Head of Energy, Environment and Combustion Department, the National Metrology and Testing Laboratory of France, Dr. Avni Sfishta, Team Leader of Kosovo Energy Efficiency Project by GIZ Kosovo, and Mr. Stefanos Pallantzas, the President of the Board of Directors, Hellenic Passive House Institute, Greece. Our session is going to be 90 minutes. The first 70 minutes are allocated for our speakers' presentations. The discussion part, which is going to be around 20 minutes, is going to take place at the end of the session, after all presentations are completed. We kindly request you to write your questions to the chat box at the screen, so at the end we can share questions with our speakers. Should there be any questions left unanswered due to time restrictions, you can directly ask these questions to speakers through their LinkedIn addresses, which are available on forum website. You can follow simultaneous translation of the session in Stream 2. Before we start, may I kindly remind all our participants to keep their microphones muted so that there will be no background noise during the presentations. Our first speaker is Dr. Hicham Lahmidi. Dr. Lahmidi is a French energy expert with significant practical experience in energy efficiency in buildings and industry. He participated to the transposition of Energy Performance Buildings Directive in France and development of French regulation for new and existing buildings. He also took part in the development of low energy construction label in France. He managed different European projects related to energy efficiency in buildings and developed a multi-criteria decision-making software based on genetic algorithms. He chairs the France chapter and Western Europe network of Association of Energy Engineers. Today, Dr. Lahmidi will be presenting the French roadmap to reach positive energy buildings and carbon neutrality. Please.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So I'm very happy to be present here with you, and it's an honor for me to share with you our experiences in France related to establishment of rules to reach zero energy building or near zero energy buildings and also to present our roadmap to reach carbon neutrality at short term, but also long term. So I will try to share my screen. It's okay, you see my screen?
Not yet, we are waiting.
It looks like it works. I will try again. Share screen. And now you see my screen?
I see it takes a few seconds. Let's wait, Dr. Lahmidi.
Okay. Sorry.
And now you are on live, but you have to put it at presentation mode so we can see.
Okay. Okay, so let's start. So I'm going today to present to you the French roadmap to reach zero energy building and carbon neutrality. As you know, probably all what happened currently in Europe is just a transposition of article published and voted in Brussels and present in different European directives. The European directive related to building established the rules to reach near zero energy building by 2018, and also established some rules to reach carbon neutrality. And currently in France, we start making transpositions and going on this way. So let's start, but what was established at the European level before talking about how it was transposed in France, in French rules, and what is the philosophy in France to reach these European targets. Regarding European roadmap, I choose some, I would say, some special articles and definitions from European directives, especially from the last European directive who is an updated of EPBD directive, but also energy efficiency directive. It's the directive 2018. But before talking about this directive, I want to highlight some points. So the near zero energy building and the target for near zero energy building was defined in the last European directive EPBD on 2010. And what we can find in this directive, that the energy performance of buildings directives requires all new building to be nearly zero energy by the end of 2020, and all new buildings must be nearly zero energy by 2018. So this is the European target. And what we decided in France, as we know that it will come into force by 2018 and 2020, we decided to establish rules 10 years before. So in 2010, we decided in France to work on an update of regulation, thermal regulation regarding new constructions, to establish some rules and to introduce new regulations. And by this way, to make like a learning process before 2018 and before 2020. And our objective is once we will reach this date, we will be ready to get near zero energy building. And our philosophy was that, so in France, we got and we established the definition for low energy building certifications. So the ministry make like a copy paste of the rules of this low energy buildings to the regulations. And in 2011, our regulation, thermal regulation, was based 100% on the definition of this certification label. And we create like a movement for learning, for stakeholders, for public authority, for architects and engineers. And currently, when we talk about low energy building or near zero energy building, it's a standard in France. And currently, we start thinking about the next step, who will be low carbon constructions and zero energy building, what we call in France positive energy buildings. It means more production on site than conceptions. So our philosophy in France is each time it will be the same. We make like analysis of European directives, and we try to establish like an experiment before 10 years before it comes into force, between the dates, and created learning systems. And once we reach our objective, we make like an evaluations, and we start updating based on learning. So this is the first, I would say, feedback regarding near zero energy building. Regarding carbon neutrality, so we currently in France we focus on articles who were published on the last directive 2018. And what we found in this directive, so the Energy Union and the Energy and Climate Policy Framework for 2030 establish ambitious union commitment to reduce green gas emissions further by at least 40% by 2020 as compared with 1990. So we have some rules established at the European level and with the targets established for 2030. So in France, we decide to start now and not to wait to 2025 to start talking about this subject or to update our regulations. Each time we will start 10 years before with the same philosophy. If we have a certification or label present in the national market, we will analyze the rules of this label, trying to establish our rules, our regulations on this basis, and after that created e-learning systems, and based on the feedback we will update it and go ahead on this. So on the same directive, we have other points related to improvement of energy efficiency of this stock buildings, carbon neutrality, and near zero energy building. The union and committed the development of sustainable, competitive, secure, and decarbonized energy system by 2050. So under this directive, you can see that we have a lot of objectives: short-term objective, mid-term objective, and long-term objective. And our idea is to establish a rule now and to work on this roadmap step by step, and each 10 years make like an evaluation of regional objectives and updating regulations and try to improve our system and create markets. This is analysis of what happened at European roadmap. Another point is related to a mandatory energy improvement. I think you are aware that currently in Europe, and especially in France, we have a lot of obligation of means. And our objective from 2020 is to change this philosophy and move in from objective of means to objective of results. So to try to talk about more results and to verify results than means calculation or something like that. So this is the first philosophy who was adopted from this year. And there is another one. So in each regulations in France, each time we have some rules related to fines. If there is no compliance with the regulations, you will have a fine, you have to pay fine. So from 2020, the ministry decided to move from fines, this process of application of fine for non-compliance, to, I will say, to move to the market by establishing rules based on name and shame. If there is no compliance, the stakeholders, architects or engineer, they will have their name on, I will say, blacklist, and name and shame will probably participate to move on a good way and to reach our objectives. Another point who is very, very important for us at the European roadmap, and we start making transposition at the French market, is a mandatory improvement for energy improvement for tertiary building. As you know, probably each time, I would say the big problem is related to existing, to stock buildings more than a new construction. When we talk about new construction, you can imagine what you want, but when we talk about existing buildings, you have to take into account constraints, and each time you have more difficulties, and it is not easy to move buildings from existing to near zero energy building or to low carbon. So in France, what we decided is to establish, based also on the European roadmap, is to establish rules from last year with a mandatory energy improvement of energy efficiency for tertiary building, for the whole tertiary building, with three, I will say, 3 steps of targets. The first target is fixed for 2030, the second one for 2040, and the last one for 2050. And based on the same rule as I highlighted before, is not obligation of means, is obligation of results. You have to prove that you reach reduction of energy consumptions, and the level is is very high, because we talk about reduction of 40% of energy consumption, the real energy consumption by 2030, 50% by 2040, and 60% of energy consumption, real energy consumption, by 2050. So this is what we are working on it today in France. And there is another subject in new constructions. So next year we will have a new regulation, and I will present in details what will be, I will say, the kernel of this new regulations. Let's move, after this, I will say this short presentation of the situations with the relation between European roadmap and French roadmap. Let's focus on French situation regarding buildings and energy consumptions in general. This graph presents the evaluation of final energy consumptions by sector in France. And as you can see, the final energy consumptions for the whole sector is about 149.3 million tons of oil equivalents. And in this part, more than 45% is related to building, especially residential and tertiary building. So if we are looking to have an impact on the energy consumption in France, we have to focus more in building than in industry, for different reasons. So the first reason is, I would say, the percentage of the buildings on the whole energy consumptions. And second one is more easy to have an impact on buildings than in industry, is the reason why I think a lot of rules and a lot of regulations currently in France are focusing on buildings, and we try to be an example in France and in Europe by reaching zero energy building for new constructions, and low energy building for existing for stock buildings, and also carbon neutrality for a part of our buildings by 2025, and move the whole sector to this carbon neutrality and near zero energy building for new and existing building by 2050. This is our philosophy. Just to give you an idea about our energy bills for the whole sector in France, is about $65 billion. So it's very important to have if we can have an impact on the buildings, we will probably have an impact on this $65 billion. And our philosophy is we cannot just focus on existing buildings and forgot what can be applied to new constructions. So our ministry decided to move and to establish rules for renovation of existing building, but also for new constructions. The rate of renewable buildings in France is less than 2%. So what we have decided, so we have, I would say, a big experience with the thermal regulations for new constructions. So since 1974, we established thermal regulations for new constructions. It was an answer to the petroleum crisis. And in this time, it was just focusing on insulations. And from each 10 years, we update our regulations and taking into account the new context. So for example, in 1982, our objective was to introduce life cycle analysis under thermal regulations. And for example, in 2005, one of our objectives is to highlight the thermal comfort and the impact on the thermal comfort on the energy consumptions. So in this objective, our regulation was updated. In 2012, our regulation was based, as it was mentioned before, was based on low energy consumption label, and our objective was to establish a rule for near zero energy building. But the next generation for regulation will not be just thermal regulations. We are moving to environmental regulations, because we want to introduce life cycle analysis for the whole materials, but also zero energy building. So to reach this objective, we established a mix between low energy building and low carbon buildings, and it is now established. It's not published, but it will come into force next year. So our objective for low energy building is lower consumption of no renewable energy, development of efficient solution and production of renewable energy at the level of the buildings or the neighborhood. For low carbon buildings is our objective a reduction of gas emission on the whole life cycle of the building. So each product will be characterized, and calculation will be based on life cycle of each product. And the idea is to introduce the definition of circular economy at this level of regulations, and to create a movement under this two subjects, and in order to create e-learning and by the end reach our objective. And the philosophy will be the same as it was applied for near zero energy building. So as we are, as it is our first experience with the mixture between energy and life cycle analysis, we established a label. So an energy and low carbon construction label. It was established under in situ experimentations, and the idea is to involve all stakeholders during 3-4 years to learn from these experiments, and after we have a feedback on the rules, to update the rules and to introduce all these rules and techniques on the regulations, who is currently ongoing. Life cycle analysis is a new subject for architects, for engineers, for stakeholders, but also for administrations. So under this experience, we will have a feedback and introduce these regulations who will came into force next year. French, regarding existing building, we have thermal regulation for existing building with two level, I will say, of regulation depending on refurbishments. We have major renovation and minor renovation. Minor renovation, it will be applied for just building components when we make just replacements of windows or something like that. But if you have a major, very big renovation or refurbishment, you have to apply major renovation, and it came into force on 2008. There is no project of updating the regulations, but what we observed on the market, that all our dwellings are dependent on, I will say, level defined in each regulations. So we say that before establishing the regulations, building built before 1948, we have more than 10 million units. The rate is about 250 kilowatt hour per square meter, and after after war, so after between 1948 and the first introduction of establishment of regulations, the level is very, very high, between 400 and 900 kilowatt hour per square meter per year. But after the establishment of certain establishment regulations, the building are more and more efficient. So we reach, currently we have around 150 kilowatts per square meter per year. In France also, we decided to increase the sensitivity in companies, in big companies, about energy efficiency. So we start in the first time by obligation of means. Obligation of means, it means for this subject, obligation to carry out energy audit without any obligation to improve really the energy efficiency. But once you reach, I will say the stakeholders in each company is sensitive to energy efficiency, he will make analysis and probably move to the improvement of energy efficiency. If it doesn't come with this mandatory energy audit, it will probably come with the second, we'll say, text of law related to the mandatory energy improvement for tertiary building. So the origin of this mandatory energy audit was also the European directive introduced through the Article 8, mandatory energy audit for a big company, with exception for activity covered by ISO 50001 certifications. So in France, we decided that companies with some qualification can carry out the energy audit. The qualification is not related just to the person, it's related to company. And the methodology who was adopted and who was mandatory to carry out the energy audit, it was European standard 16247. Lesson learned from the first campaign is...
Dr. Lahmidi, can we please wrap up?
Yeah. I see.
Can we wrap up, please?
Okay. So currently we discovered that we create a sensitive about energy efficiency in big companies, but I will say the main important text of law whose came into force is the mandatory energy improvement for tertiary buildings in France, who will introduce the reduction of energy consumption by 40% in 2030, 50% in 2040, and 60% in 2050, and by the end, reduction of gas emissions, and establishing the roadmap to reach low energy carbon. I will stop here because I exceed the time. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Actually, you are completely right. It is very difficult to sum up within 20 minutes so much work, so much effort. And thank you for this brief note, including each and every part of it. Our second speaker is Dr. Avni Sfishta. Dr. Swishta is a Kosovo energy expert with long experience on energy efficiency policies, technical and regulatory part. He played active role in the transposition process of Energy Efficiency Directive and Energy Performance Building Directive in Kosovo. He was a member of working groups in drafting and adopting different ordinances related to energy performance standards in buildings. Currently, he is supporting national government in developing Integrated National Energy and Climate Plan 2021-2030 and setting 2030 targets for greenhouse gas, renewable energy sources, and energy efficiency with perspectives for 2040 and 2050. He is certified trainer for energy auditors for buildings and industry and is certified trainer for energy assessors. He is working on energy efficiency for more than 13 years in different national and regional projects financed by the German government, European Commission, EBRD, WBIF. He is member of Energy Efficiency Coordination Group at Energy Community in Vienna. Today, Dr. Sfishta will be presenting Near Zero Energy Buildings' contribution to meet national targets set by Integrated National Energy and Climate Plans 2021-2030 with perspective of 2040 and 2050. Please, Dr. Sfishta.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be together with you today. I will just try to switch my presentation. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see, and if you can put it presentation mode, it will be perfect. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
We can see, Dr. Sfishta, we can see your notes also, so maybe, but it should be no problem.
Yeah, I don't have notes on the side, so I think.
Okay.
Once more, thank you very much for having me today with you and also giving the opportunity to share our experience on the development of National Energy and Climate Plan, but related to the near zero energy buildings. And in this perspective of long-term planning 2021-2030 and having some goal towards 2040 and 2050.
It seems Dr. Sfishta is lost, so we'll wait 1 minute. Stefanos? Mr. Pallantzas? Dr. Sfishta is offline, so maybe we can continue with you.
I'm here.
Okay, I will just introduce you, okay? I will just introduce you. Our next speaker, Mr. Stefanos Pallantzas, is graduated from the German School of Athens and studied civil engineering at the National Technical University of Athens, where he specialized in the timescale and financial planning of major projects.
Yes.
For nearly 30 years, he is involved in more than 50 residential building projects in Greece and abroad, in which he prioritized very low energy consumption and the implementation of environmental friendly technologies. Mr. Pallantzas is founder and president of the Hellenic Passive House Institute, trainer on the Passive House Design Education, certified Passive House Designer and accredited building certifier. He also is founding member of the International Passive House Association and member of its technical committee. Mr. Pallantzas and the HPHI collaborated with the Turkish Passive House Association (SEPEV) in delivering courses and certification to Turkish architects and engineers. Today, Mr. Pallantzas will be presenting Zero Energy Buildings Roadshow, Energy Efficiency Around the Corner. Please, Mr. Pallantzas. Mr. Sfishta,
Okay.
we will take as number 3.
Okay, no problem.
Maybe we will continue with Dr. Sfishta and Stefano. We will let Dr. Pallantzas work on his presentation. What do you say, gentlemen? Okay.
I think, okay, can you hear me now? Can you see my screen? I have already shared my screen. I believe this will come, okay.
Okay, now then let's continue with Mr. Pallantzas. Your voice comes and goes, but let's see how it will continue. Let's see. Please.
Very good friends and partners, but also among other people that I don't know, and it's an honor to be here and know you of the conference. So I wish a good for Turkey also to make better steps in things that have to do with buildings and their situation. I really don't get you very well. Okay.
Mr. Pallantzas, we have problems with hearing you. So maybe you leave, you reconnect. In the meantime, we continue with Dr. Sfishta. What do you say? You may have to reconnect. So let's give the chair to Mr. Sfishta. Is that fine?
I will continue if the host doesn't. So I will speak about the situation of nZEB regulations in Greece and how it is a good situation. Union has created a roadmap since 10 years in order to achieve the nZEB buildings from the 1st January of 2021. In Greece, unfortunately, haven't done serious steps during these last 10 years. We just remembered 2 years ago, according to the European regulation, and this definition was also not so clear. and it was only just a definition, nothing else. I will suggest that you proceed with the next speaker and give me 5 or 10 minutes in order to change the laptop, because okay?
Yes, please. Yes, that's fine.
Is this a possibility?
Okay, so Dr. Sfishta, the turn was yours, so please, let's give it a try again.
I'm sorry. Yeah, these are technical problems that it's not under all
I was
control.
listening a few days ago to the great speech of von der Leyen, and she was saying that Europe has to digitalize quickly, and we hope that Europe will digitalize quickly so we can get your ideas more quickly from you.
Okay, so can you see now my presentation?
It will take a few seconds until your presentation comes. And now, yes, we can see. Please.
Yeah. So I was saying, I'm going to present today the long-term planning on national energy and climate plans on relation, on building renovation, on nZEB application, on setting the standards on this long-term planning for 2021-2030 with the perspective of 2040 or 2050. As you most probably know, all the Balkan countries which are not member of the European Union, they are member of Energy Community Treaty, and they do have the obligation on a transposition process of the EU directives. And in that line, in 2018, all the countries which are members of the Energy Community have agreed on developing national energy and climate plan. And also in 2018, it was also developed a policy guideline how this plan should look like. The plan says it's an integrated energy and climate national plan that sets the targets, as I said, for 2030. And it's meant to cover the gap on the national legislation and pave the way towards a higher ambition on this decarbonization process. The plan constitutes the framework for integrating energy and climate policies and driving the decarbonization and energy sectors in the economy as a whole. And it's in line with the Paris Agreement. What consists in the plan, it's first does the evaluation of existing policy and measures set in the country, puts forward what should be what are the future trajectories, identification of potential aspects, setting the targets and sub-targets, which mean in different sectors or sub-sectors, how much can be achieved in terms of energy saving, what type of the measure should be taken into consideration, and what are the impact of these policy measures. In specific, one of the dimensions on energy efficiency, the plan also has this the building renovation strategy. There is a near zero energy building action plan. On top of that, It is data modeling, data about the energy consumption, about the policies and what effects these policies will give in the long run, but also on the terms of what will be impact on greenhouse gas emission, and also interaction with other policies in the macroeconomic environment, and also having the social aspects. So here is the one graph that sets presents the different targets based on different policies, different measures, different of political decisions. And in the graph, you can see if, for example, the country will do nothing, what will be the total energy consumption, and based on different measures that will be taken, what could be the savings and what will be the overall energy consumption expressed on the final energy consumption and also in the primary energy consumption. Related to the topic that we are talking today, I would like to interlink with my previous speaker that we have transport the energy performance building directives, and for the contracting parties, which mean of the energy community, they shall ensure that by 13th of June 2021, all new buildings are near zero energy building. So it means for the buildings that will be constructed, they have to meet a certain standard in terms of the energy consumption, and of course to be a low energy consumption buildings. Also, according to the directive, after 13th of June 2019, new buildings occupied and owned by public authority are near zero energy buildings. So this directive requires adoption of national plans for increasing the number of zero energy buildings, which we have developed that plan, and we do have the draft. At the moment, it is in a discussion process for adoption, and also requires that public authorities should lead as an example in terms of they develop policies, but also they take measures in setting the targets. So on top of that, what we did is the government developed a methodology for calculating energy performance in buildings, which is in line with Energy Performance Building Directive. They develop regulation on the minimum energy performance requirements, and also definition or setting national nZEB targets on the action plan. So what it means, we are talking about the current national requirements. So it means that the buildings has to be renovated or has to be constructed on the level that they reduce the energy consumption to certain level, and then for the near zero energy buildings means on top of that adding renewables, which contributes to reduction of fossil fuel uses in very low amount. And by this, we talk about technology, we talk about the labor, we talk about the market. So Energy Community this year have published this transition tracker, and I linked this area also with this tracker that was published by Energy Community, because for example, on near zero energy buildings, we are talking about the making market decarbonized, reduction, contributing to reducing the carbon footprints, boosting development of renewables, as you will see on my next slides, that certain amount of renewables has to be produced on site or on the building that is near zero energy buildings, and of course making energy efficiency as first fuel. What was done on the central level, on the local level, so it means from the public authority, the national plan for increasing the number of near zero energy building. The buildings of most of the buildings, or let's say a large number of the buildings, public buildings being local or central level, they have been audited. They have been split based on the construction year to identify where is the higher potential for energy saving, but also to check what kind of measures and intensity of these measures can be taken for these buildings to let's say to comply with these requirements, as I explained before. And here I'm bringing one example, so it means nZEB doesn't have to be rocket science. It is a normal building. Here is one building which was designed on the nZEB concept, and it was different options provided by the architects and engineers. So what it means indeed is that the characteristics of these buildings and building components and technical systems installed are subject of highly optimized design, considering the user's needs, location, climate condition, and application of the energy, renewable energy on site or nearby. So by our policies, what is considered a building on that falls on this category of nZEB is that the ratio of energy use of the building to the energy use of the referent building expressed in the percentage shall be less than 50%. So it means by setting minimum energy performance requirements, we set let's say the worst acceptable standards of energy efficiency in buildings, which are accepted. But if we want to reach a level when the building belongs to, or let's say falls to this nZEB category, these buildings has to be double in terms of better insulation, having, let's say, having better optimized technology and application of renewables. Then the ratio of renewable energy production on site to the overall energy use of the building should be more than 25%. In the energy performance certificate, it has to be also rated, and the rate should not be more than 25. So it means it's not in terms of kilowatt hour per meter square annually, but it's based on comparison between the building that we are assessing with the referent building. And the referent building is being created by the calculation tool, by the software. So when you insert the data inside, the software in this parallel, as a parallel process, it develops, or let's say, creates the same building with taking into account the minimum energy performance requirements. So it means the requirements or policy requirements that are set a priori, and they are in the software library. But when we do assess, we put all data from the real case. And then at the end, when you do a calculation, then the software will be comparison between the building that fulfills the standards and the building that we are assessing. And then the rate between these two, when you do a calculation, should not be more than 25. Then the verification should be based on the national calculation methodology. So basically the methodology, how this assessment of energy performance of the building is done should be in line with the calculation methodology. So from the 1st of January 2021, all the new buildings applying for the construction permit in country have to be compliant with this minimum energy performance requirements, but also on being equipped with the energy performance certificate on the level as designed. So when the building is being designed, then energy performance certificate is being issued for the design, and when the building is being constructed and it is on the phase to be how to say technical accepted, or as we call it, certificate, issuing certificate of usage, it means again another APC should be conducted to check if the buildings comply with these regulations. So how this assessment is done, basically when you do a building being for refurbishment or being for a new building, you split the building in zones, different zones, and then for each zone of the building, you assign the envelope of the zone. You assign what type of heating or ventilation or air conditioning system is in the certain area that you assess. And a division of these zones are done based on the let's say of the uses of what's the purpose of using these areas, and also some technical criteria that meets about the, for example, lighting or natural lighting and so on. So then you assign all these systems to the zone for the building you assess, and then you do a calculation, and then based on this you get the rating here on the certificate. So to meet minimum energy performance requirements, this rating should be in between B and C, and if is on nZEB level, then it's in between A and B. So the process itself for assessing such buildings is you create a virtual model of building in calculation assessment tool, and then you attribute the fabrics of let's say of the building you assess. So these minimum energy performance requirements, or let's say U values, that minimum U values accepted by let's say by the policies in force, are already in the system. You define the technical building systems which are in line with this minimum energy performance requirement, then you run the calculation tool, and then you might get two types of results. First is if the APC is less than 50, so it means the building meets minimum energy performance requirements, and then it can go for the construction, or let's say it will be approved for issuing permit. If the building is less than 25, then we say the nZEB standard is met, and the same procedure apply. But if these two standards are not met, then it means that the building or in the designing phase should go back for improving the fabric or systems, and then it's task of the designers and engineers to improve the fabrics or put better, I don't know, systems with high efficiency in the building and so on. Some countries have adopted, for example, just to share with you, have adopted, for example, sort of benchmark how much primary energy consumption should be consumed by certain type of building based on different climate zones. To be how to say, to be falling in the category of nZEB, for example. And here in this table on the right, you might see, for example, that the buildings that the buildings that are in the area that average outside temperature is less than 3 degrees, then based, or let's say in different type of the building, there is how much totally primary energy consumption is allowed for such a building to be nZEB. Or if we are talking about the let's say warmer climate zones, then these figures might be a bit different. So now I will come to some of the recommendations based on our experience here. I would say that the policy regulation and standards are still to be amended or completed for creating a solid ground for its implementation, as for sure there is something I would say is quite new, and these obligations for the countries first here came quite late in 2018, 2019. Indeed, we had the previous standards from ex-Yugoslav time, starting from 1997 and 1970 to 1990, but these standards are becoming tougher and tougher, you know, in the last few years. Then another element that is being seen is that lack of understanding on what low energy building means for the actual building construction processes. So basically, some of the construction companies they do not really think in terms of seeing this life cycle of the building, how much energy this building will consume during the life cycle. They are looking more on this economic perspective, but not this these criteria. Then another element is these long-term vision are milestones. As I said, we do have we are almost in the process of adopting building renovation strategy, and in this building renovation strategy, one of the questions that is still in a discussion is what will be the targets, the milestones for implementation of such building renovation strategy. Would it be 2030, 2040, or 2050? Because then it depends on the scale and intensity of such intervention. Another element that we also have noted is the alignment of these, for example, building renovation strategy with national energy strategy, which the actual one is up to 2026. It will be revised until 2030, but the question would be what after. So then when you do such analysis, the importance of qualitative data and input data of high relevant, because it gives you projection and also valuable outputs. So data consistency and reliability of when you do such planning are of really high importance. I said also on my previous slide that there is still a low know-how on near zero energy building renovation solutions among investors, contractors, designers, and other professionals. These buildings is being sort of seen as quite complex, and some people, let's say, feel like scary when you talk about, okay, is it possible to reach it or not? But I think this by years, I think this will be overcome. Then the another element that is about the cost of renovation or the cost of implementation of such measures. It's about the affordability of such investment. So here we do have, if I'm not wrong, we might be maybe one of the cheapest energy price for energy in Kosovo is almost the cheapest one in the Europe. But the price for the construction materials, it does not differ much. So when you do a calculation of simple payback period, or you do economic calculation of such investment, it is also a question mark. Is it feasible, or it is it attractive for people to do such investments? Then there is quite a lot of people that wants to renovate, for example, their houses, but they don't know what to do or how they should do it. So basically, sometimes they rely on the construction companies, sometimes they rely on the engineers and designers. So one of the area that might be helpful is also this promotion and education, or let's say awareness raising for the people, for the residents. So far, we usually discussed like energy efficiency, low-hanging fruit measures might be the first one to do, because they do have the simple payback period very short. There is quite, I would say, attractive for investment. But on the other hand, if we are comparing to the nZEB standard, there is a question: are we creating sort of locking effect to apply nZEB? Because at some point, it might be maybe a bit difficult to convince the tenant to invest again after a couple of years on energy efficiency to increase the performance of such buildings. So basically, this might also seen as a risk or as a lost opportunity for renovation in the next phase. So, as I said, low energy prices do not favorize implementation on nZEB because the payback period of such investment is quite long, between 50 to 30 years. And also, it does not encourage the residents, for example, if they do not stay long enough in a house, or if it's done by landlord, then this might create increasing the rent for them. So this is also on thing that should be considered when, or let's say we consider when we are talking about these projects. Then we still don't have any financial instruments available that are aimed directly exclusively on supporting nZEB. There is a fund for energy efficiency in the country that is supporting implementation of energy efficiency measures, but it is not targeting nZEB. It targets meeting minimum energy performance requirements, and at this stage, it is covering only the public buildings, being a central or local level, and it is sort of planned that from next year they will look into how the fund can be extended to the residential and also to the commercial sector. Yeah, so by this I would conclude my presentation and hand over to you, and yeah, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sfishta, for this great presentation too. We have had an in-depth sight of what is being performed in Kosovo. And I would like to give the stage to Mr. Pallantzas. And we are looking forward to your presentation too. I had made your introduction before, and please. Can you open your, can you unmute your microphone?
Yes, I can do it. Now you can hear me better and perfect. Okay. Sorry for the problems before, but okay. Now we are in. I don't know if you see my screen already.
It takes a few seconds, so I think it's uploading. We don't see it yet.
Please tell me, because I don't see your monitor now. I don't see you. I see only.
I will tell you, but we don't see your screen yet. Yes.
Let's do it again.
Please have your presentation open at the desktop and then push the share screen button, and then let's see what happens.
Is it
Let's
okay
wait.
Now? I cannot do something else because I have already shared here.
Let's wait a few seconds and let me write to our technical team. If it's the same presentation, I may open it from here if you want.
It's the same. It's exactly the same. What I have.
Okay, I will see.
I will do it once again. Just a moment.
Okay, in the worst case, I will place your PowerPoint presentation, and then you will just say to me next, and I will just go to the next slide. Okay?
Just a moment, Yasemin. Just last. Let's find something. There it is.
Okay. Yes, exactly. Well done.
Okay.
There you are.
So I have over an hour now that I'm happy being with you. So I will tell it now for the second time. I'm really happy to be in this conference and among some good friends and good partners. And I hope that this conference will be a good step for Turkey also to make some further steps in terms of climate change and the problems that buildings create in this climate change. And I hope we will support these important steps for you also. It's also a pleasure for me to be here because you know that these days some other people are, I don't know how to say it, are preparing for bad things. We are here and we prepare for good things. We are here to support our efforts to a better planet. So this is the reason that I'm here and not any other. So I will give you some examples and some points on how the situation nZEB buildings is developing in Greece, and I will especially present you a new European program that is happening, has started a few months ago in countries in Greece, in Bulgaria, in Romania, and in Italy. Here you have the partners of this European project, which is called nZEB Roadshow and is financed by the European Union by the program Horizon 2020, and is also, let's say, the third part of a trilogy that was created a few years ago and was started with two different projects that I will tell you about later on. But first of all, let me give you, let's say, a big picture of what is happening in Greece during the last years. As you know, the EPBD, the European Building Performance Directive, was created in 2010. It's the so-called 31. This EPBD, this directive was revised in 2018 by 844, and the main subject of this directive is that the states of the European Union had to be prepared in order to implement nearly zero energy buildings from the 1st January of 2021, so in a few months. And also the public sector has already implemented this from the 1st January of 2019, but the private sector will do it from the next year. Greece has done not so many things during this decade. We had the alibi of the financial crisis. Many people said, no, we cannot do anything now about these policies. We will think about it later. So we came in 2020, and suddenly the new government realized that they have to create policies and be in line with this directive. And also the Technical Chamber of Greece tried to do something like that, but suddenly they decided that we are not ready for that. That 10 years was not enough to be prepared, and they decided to postpone the implementation of the directive for another 6 months. So we will start officially on the 1st of June of 2021 to implement this new nZEB regulations. If you ask me, I am nearly 99% sure that we won't be ready also in the 1st June of 2021 because nothing is happening at the moment. We are expecting some steps, some initiatives from the government. Maybe some of them will be interesting, but at the moment nothing is happening in terms of educating the engineers, educating the technicians, educating the people in order to be ready to design and implement and realize nZEB buildings. Because, as you know, maybe it's not so easy to do that. Although it's mainly building physics, and a lot of us are very familiar with building physics, the majority of the engineers and the architects in Europe, and I believe also in Turkey, are let's say educated to just put the minimum requirements in a calculation, and then become this minimum requirements for every building, and no one is trying to design a better building. The nZEB initiative and the nZEB idea was to design better buildings, much better buildings, and there is potential there, and this is what we are aim to do also through this project. So this project aims to organize national scale marketing and communication campaigns in 5 European countries, focused around nZEB weeks, organized in 3 to 5 selected cities. In Greece, we will do it in 10 cities in each involved country. The nZEB weeks will include construction products and real estate fairs, practical demonstration, real-time nZEB construction, training courses for designers and construction workers, information sessions, and free consultations for citizens active on the real estate market, and also on-site training at public building renovation sites and career orientation centers and construction job fairs. So we will try to do nearly everything that the government and the state have not done during the last 10 years. So we will stimulate the demand for energy-related skills of construction workers and specialists, because the problem is in both sectors very, very big. Our program in Greece, we have decided to do it not only in 3 to 5 cities as it was the obligation on the European proposal. We will do it in 10 cities during the next couple of years, not in Athens, but in several other cities in Greece. We will go to cities that have a very hard winter, so we will show there what is going on if you decide to design an nZEB building. And we will go also on islands in order to see what is happening in these buildings during summer, because this is also an issue, especially in the Mediterranean area. Maybe for the northern European countries, it's easy to, or it's difficult to design passive house or nZEB buildings in an appropriate way, and they don't care about what is happening in summer, although during the last years they are starting to understand what is going on with overheating. In Greece and in countries in the Mediterranean area, the problem is much different. Although it's always a demand for the winter, the main problem is the summer, and you have to have a lot of knowledge there to understand and do the right thing. So I told you before that this nZEB roadshow is the third part of a trilogy. So the first 2 parts were Train to nZEB and Fit to nZEB, 2 other European programs. In these European programs, we have created, first of all, facilities like the things that you see here. And in the second program, we have created the material that we need in the training material. So we have created training material, more than 2,000 slides in more than 50 presentations for all EQF levels. So we have material there ready to deliver for the little pupils in the school up to the EQF level 8. So we can support any kind of training in any kind of situation. But the main idea and the clever idea was to create this mock-ups that you see and this on-site training, which were included in the so-called building knowledge hubs, and we have created 1 hub in every country, in many countries. There is also in Train to nZEB, there was also I believe the Technical University of Izmir was participated. So there is a building knowledge hub in Izmir. I don't know if you use it now. So now the idea of the third part of the forum is to put this building knowledge hub on wheels, let's say, and bring it to the rest of the country. So to go to another 10 cities and do the same things that we have done in Athens or in another capital of another country. So we will use, for example, real estate fairs, although now with the coronavirus, I don't know if we will have any kind of fairs. But we will see what we can do on that. We will have practical demonstrations, so we have all the materials needed in order to show to people, to any kind of people, to engineers, to technicians, to students, to pupils, to ordinary citizens, how it works, how it goes with nearly zero energy buildings. We will have, of course, training courses, the classical training courses for designers and construction workers, which also drive to a certification if they want, to a passive house certification, designer or tradespeople, and also now PHPP experts. So we will do a third training course of improving the knowledge in our main software that we use for passive houses and nZEB, the PHPP. And you get also an additional certificate if you want as a PHPP expert. We will put, as I told you, these new mockups or lighter mockups on wheels, and we will have, one idea is to have a van and to transport these mockups in several cities. Another idea which will be implemented in Italy will be this unit, this building that you see in the photo in the middle. So the building will be transported with a truck, and inside the building will also be several things to do. I will show you later. The third idea, which will be mainly implemented here in Greece, is that we will have a minivan, and we will have a lot of things in this magic things in this minivan. It will be a little bit like Sport Billy, so a small bag or something, but many things inside. I will show you details now. So the mobile home units, as you see some examples here from Italy again, will be a complete building, a complete house, small house, where you can see all the systems working, from windows, from insulation, from PV panels, from hot water, from heat pump, from everything. The second one will be our minivan with a lot of practical activities and training. And the third one will be these mock-ups that will be created on site, on the city maybe, if the city wants that. Or we will bring some of them together with us in the vans and leave it there for several days. In the mobile home units, we will show inside to the end users, for example, different window frames, insulation, air quality systems, and so on. And we will also game there with them and with applications. I will tell you later. But also to the designers or construction workers, we will show material assemblies, we will show insulation layers, air tightness. We will do activities with foil and tape application. We will do blow door test, which is mainly unknown in Greece. Only we that we care about passive houses, we do blow door test at the moment in Greece. This is also an insight of a mobile home unit, as you see, with several applications, like living experience, like gaming, like ice challenge. Ice challenge is an idea where we create two small boxes, two small houses. The one is built as conventional, according to conventional regulation, national regulation. The other one is built with passive house requirements. So we put, let's say, 50 kilos of ice in every small box, and we bet how many kilos of these 50 kilos will remain after 1 week in each box. and the winner will take, let's say, a weekend in a passive house hotel or a weekend in another passive house and so on. So this is the idea of the ICE challenge. We have done this all over the world many times now. It's very important, very interesting happening, and people like this and come then and ask about nZEB and passive houses. So other things that we will do in the mobile units will be air quality with ventilation units, PV monitoring, infrared thermal imaging, and so on. Other things also about smart buildings, and we will have also the performance of the building in monitors. So another idea is the training track. There are many, as you know, there are many companies that have already their own training track, like you see here, Fisher Track inside and outside in 2019. We will try to cooperate with some of these companies in order to have them in these nZEB weeks. In the training track, we can have again these mock-ups, as I told you, and a lot of materials. We can do the blow door test, as you see here. We can make air tightness practices and so on, or window installation, or ventilation units with heat recovery installation and sealing and so on. We will have facilities. So we decided also in Greece, as I told you, not to have as many heavy things. We will do a lot of things more with small training toolboxes and so on. And we have also decided to go to cities where we have already some passive houses, certified passive houses and nZEB buildings. So we will include in the nZEB week the visit in these houses. So we will show to the people not only mock-ups and equipment walls, we will show them the real house, and we will give them also the opportunity to discuss with the local, with the users, with the end users, which is very, very important. My experience shows that the biggest fun of the passive house and the nZEB building is the end user. The end user who has problems to understand at the beginning, before the construction, many things in how to create an nZEB building. At the end, he is the guy that he's explaining very, very good the way of living in such a house. And he's a very, very, it's very interesting to bring other people to hear the end users of how they feel in these houses, because after all, also it is very, very important, and for me it's the most important thing, that the way of life and the quality of life in these buildings are much, much better than in the conventional buildings that we live now. So because of that, and because of the minivan, we decided to have a lot of small demo models, and you see you can have everything. These are some of them, demo models, in order to show to people how it is with air tightness, how it is with designing the ventilation system, how we do a blow door test, how the heat pump works, how the hot water works, how everything. So we can have everything in small models, and we will take it in a minivan and go for a week there. The most important thing for us is to discuss with people, with as much people as possible. And of course, because this procedure is not only training and blah, 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 and showing and practicing and so on, we say that this is also game, not only because we want to speak also with the next generations, with the younger generations, but also because we want to show to the older people and to the older professionals that we can play a little bit with this, and maybe then they will understand better. And believe me, we will begin from the very, very beginning. We will begin from the very first thing that we have learned as building physicists in the university. What is this problem and how we solved it? We solved this. Why we have decided to hold the coffee from the plastic that this I don't know how do you say it. How do you say it, Yasemin, in Turkish, this equipment for the Turkish coffee? Okay, so we put it, we always have, we cannot take it from the metal, we have to take it from the plastic. So this is physics and we cannot change it. So we have to design also our houses in this way, otherwise we don't have the good example. So these were, because I see I'm running out of time, these were the small presentation of what we will do in the next couple of years. I can answer you later questions if you have any. This program will have a big support for several municipalities and cities all over the countries. Also in Greece we have a very good support. More than that, this was the support during the proposal, during the issuing of the proposal. Now we have a lot of more cities that are interested in this. We have already our 10 cities chosen. And of course, as it is in every European project, we expect to have total savings of around 0.8 gigawatt hours per year during the project, and of 1,168 tons of CO2 per year because of the retrofit, and 300 because of the new builds. So this was my presentations for now. I hope that we will give you experience enough to create similar programs in your countries. I'm also at your disposal if you want further information, if you want any kind of support in this kind of roadshows. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation, Mr. Pallantzas. So today, as you have seen, we have started from the regulations and went from the decision makers all the way to the end users. So in fact, it has been a 1.5 hour very condensed information flow, how we can start, how the regulations should be set, and how we can implement it in real life. Actually, there is one question to Mr. Pallantzas, and one of our guests has asked, what is the reason for not implementing the approach initially in Athens?
What is the reason of not implementing?
What is the reason for not implementing this project in Athens? Most probably because the decision.
Because the first two parts of as I told you, train to nZEB, which was also 2 years, and fit to nZEB, which was also 2 years, all the activities were in Athens. So now, and also in the other countries, they were in the capitals of the country. So now we decided to go a roadshow, and this was accepted by the European, by Horizon.
Actually, we have been running out of time. So very quickly, I would like to ask my speakers just to answer me in 45 seconds about what I had mentioned at the very beginning of the session, that Ursula von der Leyen has just told that Europe is going to even push the targets for carbon emission. And is it going to affect all your decisions taken so far, which you have been presenting? And will you have to make any extra effort? If you can answer me within 45 seconds, I will appreciate very much. Thank you so much. Dr. Lahmidi, can we start with you?
Yes. So we are in France. We are not surprised by the situation, by the European roadmap. So currently, we are well prepared in France because we have a big experience with thermal regulations. So we are trying to move from thermal regulations to the carbon neutrality. And as I highlighted before when I started my presentation, our idea is to start by small experience. And once it's validated, we move to the regulation. And once we move to the regulations, we create markets. People are trained, and there is no surprise with us. So for my last point is, in France, we are ready
Thank you
to
so
reach
much.
neutral carbon.
Dr. Sfishta.
Yeah, I would say one of the challenges for let's say for the technical people that dealing on the ground is how to move politicians from this comfort zone. Usually they don't want to move things quicker, and we are expecting for them to move a bit quicker. So I think this pressure that is coming from the Brussels, and also the other pressure that might come from the bottom up, it might create people that are in a position to take decisions and set up these reforms to move quicker. I think this should be done in the near future. But on my personal, and also from seeing what is happening, this is possible, and I think that there is a great potential there for saving and to move to this carbon neutrality.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Pallantzas, I would like to have your opinion too.
Okay, I'm really surprised that I heard my colleagues to say that they are ready. We in Greece, we are not ready. And I believe also the majority in Europe are not ready, although there is a potential, like Mr. Sfishta said, and there's a big potential, and we know that since hundreds of years that it is a potential. So I don't believe that we are ready, and I don't believe that we exactly know what is happening at the moment. Because you know that last week we have so heavy rainfalls here in Greece, and not only in Greece. And in August, in the middle of August, we have cyclones in Greece, so, and dead people. So I believe we don't understand that we are running out of time. So there is no time to think about it. There is no time to design and to make signs on papers. There is time to act. It's only time to act, and that's why we are here. And that's why that if Yasemin calls me and said me, please support me in a project, I will do it at once. And I will do the same in Kosovo, and I will do the same in France and so on, because we are more experienced. We need to share our knowledge with the rest of the people which are not, and mainly with the young people, with the students, because the students are the future. So this is my opinion.
Thank you so much. It was a delightful session, and I'm very pleased to have had you today, and hope to see you in the near future and collaborate definitely, for sure. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.